The Discipline Code, an audiobook on mastering your life. Opening the wake-up call. If you're listening to this right now, something inside you knows the truth. You know you're capable of more. You know there's a gap between who you are and who you could be. And that gap, it's not filled with talent, luck, or opportunity. It's filled with one thing: discipline. Let me be direct with you from the start. This audiobook isn't going to coddle you. It's not going to tell you that success is easy or that you can achieve your dreams by thinking positive thoughts and waiting for the universe to deliver. The world is already full of that comfortable nonsense, and where has it gotten you? No, what we're going to explore together is the raw, unfiltered truth about discipline, the kind of discipline that separates people who dream from people who achieve, the kind of discipline that turns ordinary individuals into extraordinary forces of nature, the kind of discipline that will transform your life so completely that a year from now, you won't even recognize the person you are today. But here's the thing that nobody tells you about discipline. It's not about punishment. It's not about depriving yourself or living some joyless existence of rigid rules. True discipline is actually the path to freedom. And by the end of this audiobook, you'll understand exactly what I mean. So let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about this. What would your life look like if you did everything you knew you should do? Not what others expect of you, not what society demands, but what you know deep in your core you should be doing. What if you showed up fully every single day for yourself? That's what we're after. That's the transformation waiting on the other side of discipline. Now, I need you to make a decision right now. Are you going to actually listen to this audiobook? Or are you just going to let it play in the background while you scroll through your phone? Because if you're not fully present for this journey, you might as well stop now. Discipline starts with this very moment. It starts with your decision to be here, fully engaged, ready to confront some uncomfortable truths about yourself. Still with me? Good. Then let's begin. Part 1. The brutal truth about discipline. Chapter 1. What discipline really is. Let's destroy some myths right from the start. Discipline is not about willpower. It's not about being tough. It's not about grinding yourself into dust or becoming some robotic machine that executes tasks without feeling. Those are caricatures, and they're precisely why so many people fail at discipline. They're aiming at the wrong target. So what is discipline really? Discipline is the skill of making your future self more important than your present self. That's it. Every time you face a choice between what feels good now and what serves you later, discipline is what tips the scale toward your future. Think about that for a moment. Right now, sitting wherever you are, there are two versions of you in conflict. There's the you of this moment, who wants comfort, ease, pleasure, and safety. And there's the you of tomorrow, next month, next year. The future you who is begging, pleading for you to make better choices today. Every time you hit the snooze button, future you suffers. Every time you skip the workout, future you pays the price. Every time you choose the easy path, you're essentially robbing from your future self to pay for present comfort. And the interest rate on that loan, it's devastating. But here's where it gets interesting. Discipline isn't just about sacrifice. It's about understanding that present you and future you are actually the same person. The pain you avoid today doesn't disappear. It just gets transferred to tomorrow, usually with interest. The work you postpone doesn't vanish. It compounds and becomes harder. Discipline is simply the wisdom to see this truth and act accordingly. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds great in theory, but in the moment, I just can't do it. I know I should go to the gym, but I'm tired. I know I should work on my project, but I don't feel motivated. And that's exactly the problem. You're waiting to feel like doing things. You're waiting for motivation to strike like lightning from the heavens. You're operating under the false belief that disciplined people somehow feel more motivated than you do. Let me shatter that illusion right now. Disciplined people don't feel more motivated. They just don't wait for motivation to act. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are weather. They come and go. Some days, you'll wake up fired up, ready to conquer the world. Other days, you'll wake up feeling like you've been hit by a truck. Disciplined people act regardless of the weather. They've learned that action creates motivation, not the other way around. This is the first fundamental principle you need to internalize. Discipline is a decision made in advance. It's not a battle you fight in the moment. When you're standing at the crossroads, trying to decide whether to go to the gym or stay on the couch, you've already lost. The disciplined person decided yesterday, or last week, or last month that they go to the gym at this time. There's no decision to make. The decision was made in advance, when they had clarity and weren't under the pressure of immediate temptation. This is why people fail at discipline. They treat every moment as a fresh decision. Point. Should I eat healthy today? Should I work on my goals today? Should I wake up early today? Every single time, they're redeciding, which means they're burning willpower and fighting themselves constantly. Disciplined people automate the decision. They create rules for themselves and follow them like laws of nature. Not because they're rigid, but because they understand that freedom comes from structure, not from endless optionality. Chapter 2. The discipline paradox. Here's something that will sound contradictory at first. Discipline doesn't restrict your freedom, it creates it. I know. That sounds like the kind of thing a drill sergeant would say right before making you do 100 push-ups. But stay with me, because this paradox is the key to everything. Think about a person who lacks discipline. What does their life look like? They wake up whenever they feel like it, which usually means they're rushed and stressed. They eat whatever is convenient, which usually means they feel sluggish and unhealthy. They work on whatever catches their attention, which usually means they never finish anything important. They spend money impulsively, which means they're always stressed about finances. They avoid difficult conversations, which means their relationships are full of unresolved tension. Now, on the surface, this person appears to have total freedom. No rules, no structure, no constraints. They're doing whatever they want, whenever they want. But look closer. Are they free? No. They're completely enslaved to their moods, their impulses, their circumstances, their base desires. They have no control over their lives. They're reactive, bouncing from one thing to another like a pinball, controlled by external forces and internal whims. They're a slave to the easiest path, which usually leads nowhere meaningful. Now contrast that with a disciplined person. They wake up at the same time every day, regardless of how they feel. They eat according to a plan that supports their health. They work on their most important goals first, before anything else can derail them. They manage their money intentionally. They have difficult conversations promptly because they value long-term relationship health over short-term comfort. On the surface, this person appears constrained, boxed in by rules and structure. But look closer. Are they constrained? No. They're incredibly free. Free from the chaos of indecision. Free from the stress of poor health. Free from the anxiety of unfinished projects. Free from financial pressure. Free from relationship drama. They've created freedom through structure. This is the discipline paradox. Constraints create freedom. Rules create possibility. Structure creates spontaneity. Think about a master musician. Are they constrained by having to practice scales every day? No. Those scales give them the freedom to improvise, to create, to express themselves in ways that would be impossible without that foundation. The discipline of practice creates the freedom of expression. Or think about financial discipline. Is someone constrained by having a budget? No. The budget gives them the freedom to spend without guilt, the freedom to save. For what matters, the freedom to not stress about money at 3 in the morning. The discipline of financial planning creates the freedom of financial peace. This is what most people get wrong about discipline. They see it as prison bars, when it's actually the key to the cell they're already in. Your lack of discipline isn't giving you freedom. It's trapping you. You're trapped in a body that doesn't feel good because you lack the discipline to take care of it. You're trapped in a career that doesn't fulfill you because you lack the discipline to build something better. You're trapped in relationships that don't work because you lack the discipline to communicate effectively or, when necessary, to leave. Discipline is what breaks you out of those traps. But here's the catch. You have to choose your constraints. If you don't choose them, life will choose them for you. And I guarantee you won't like what it picks. You can choose the constraint of a morning routine, or you can accept the constraint of always being behind and stressed. You can choose the constraint of a healthy diet, or you can accept the constraint of low energy and poor health. You can choose the constraint of financial discipline, or you can accept the constraint of money stress. Either way, you're going to have constraints. The question is, will you choose them, or will they be chosen for you? Chapter 3. Why you failed before. Let's talk about why you failed at discipline in the past. Not to make you feel bad, but because understanding your failures is the first step to overcoming them. Most people approach discipline completely wrong. They treat it like a New Year's resolution, a burst of motivation that drives massive, sweeping changes that last approximately 3 weeks before everything collapses back to baseline. You've done this, right? Maybe it was a fitness goal. You decided you were going to transform your body, so you committed to working out 2 hours a day, eating nothing but chicken and vegetables, and giving up all your favorite foods. For the first week, you were on fire. Week 2, you started making excuses. By week 3, you were done. Or maybe it was a productivity goal. You decided you were going to wake up at 5 a.m., meditate, journal, read, work on your side project, and crush your day job. For the first few days, you felt like a superhero. Then you hit snooze once. Then twice. Then you stopped setting the alarm. Or maybe it was a financial goal. You decided you were going to stop spending money on unnecessary things, cook all your meals at home, and save aggressively. For the first week, you brown bagged your lunch and skipped happy hour. Then you had a hard day. Then you had a friend's birthday. Then you were back to your old patterns. Sound familiar? Here's why this happens. You tried to build a skyscraper without laying a foundation. Discipline is not about motivation. It's not about intensity. It's not about dramatic life overhauls. Those things feel good. They make for great stories, but they don't last. What lasts is something much more boring, much less sexy, but infinitely more powerful: systems and habits. The biggest mistake people make is trying to rely on willpower instead of building systems. Willpower is a muscle, and like any muscle, it gets tired. If every day you have to use willpower to go to the gym, to eat healthy, to work on your goals, you will fail. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But if you build systems, if you create an environment and a routine where the discipline choice is the easy choice, Suddenly you don't need willpower anymore. The system does the work for you. Let me give you an example. Let's say you want to work out consistently. The willpower approach is to decide every single day whether you're going to work out. Every day becomes a battle. Every day you have to convince yourself. Every day you have to fight your desire to stay comfortable. The system's approach is completely different. You decide once that you work out at 6 a.m. every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You put your gym clothes out the night before. You pre-make a post-workout smoothie. You find a workout buddy who's expecting you. You create so much structure around the decision that it's actually harder to not work out than to work out. See the difference? In the first scenario, you're fighting yourself 3 times a week. In the second scenario, you've aligned everything so that working out is the path of least resistance. This is how disciplined people operate. They don't have more willpower than you. They've just built better systems. Another reason people fail at discipline is that they're trying to change everything at once. They want to overhaul their entire life in one dramatic moment. And look, I get the appeal. There's something seductive about the idea of becoming a completely new person overnight. But it doesn't work. You can't sustain that level of change. Your brain literally can't handle it. You're asking yourself to change dozens of habits simultaneously while also dealing with all the normal stress and challenges of life. It's like trying to renovate your entire house while living in it during a hurricane. The people who succeed at discipline understand something crucial. Small changes consistently applied compound into massive transformations. They don't try to change everything. They pick one thing, master it, and then add another. They build slowly, but they build sustainably. And here's the final reason most people fail at discipline. They focus on the outcome instead of the process. They say, I want to lose 30 pounds, or I want to make $100,000, or I want to write a novel. And those are fine goals, but goals are just direction. They're not the daily practice. If you focus on the outcome, you're constantly measuring yourself against where you aren't yet. You're always falling short. You're always dissatisfied. And eventually, that dissatisfaction kills your momentum. Disciplined people fall in love with the process. They focus on showing up. They measure success by whether they did what they said they'd do, not by whether they've reached the finish line yet. They understand that if you nail the process, the outcomes take care of themselves. So if you failed at discipline before, don't beat yourself up. You just had the wrong approach. You try to muscle through with willpower when you need it. Systems. You try to change everything when you needed to change one thing. You focused on outcomes when you needed to focus on process. Now you know better. And knowing better means you can do better. Part 2. The Mental Game. Chapter 4. Rewiring Your Identity. Here's a truth that might make you uncomfortable. You are not disciplined because you don't see yourself as a disciplined person. Let that sink in. Every action you take, every decision you make, is ultimately an expression of your identity, the story you tell yourself about who you are. If you see yourself as someone who's not a morning person, you'll hit snooze. If you see yourself as someone who's not athletic, you'll skip the gym. If you see yourself as someone who's not good with money, you'll overspend. Your identity is like a thermostat for your behavior. You might temporarily push yourself to act outside your identity through sheer force of will, but eventually, you'll snap back to what feels like you. It's like trying to keep your house at 80 degrees when the thermostat is set to 65. You can turn up the heat temporarily, but as soon as you're not actively fighting it, the system will pull the temperature back down. This is why most self-improvement fails. People try to change their behaviors without changing their identity. They try to act like a disciplined person while still seeing themselves as undisciplined. And it creates this constant internal conflict, this exhausting battle between who they're trying to be and who they believe they are. The secret to sustainable discipline is to change your identity first. You need to start seeing yourself as a disciplined person, and then your actions will naturally align with that identity. But how do you change your identity? You can't just decide one day, I'm disciplined now, and expect your brain to believe it. Your identity is built on evidence, the accumulation of actions over time that prove to yourself who you are. Here's the process. Every disciplined action you take is a vote for the identity of a disciplined person. Every time you do what you said you'd do, even when you don't feel like it, you're collecting evidence that you're someone who follows through. Do that enough times, and your identity shifts. You start to see yourself differently. And once your identity shifts, discipline becomes natural because you're just acting in accordance with who you are. Let me give you a practical example. Let's say you want to become someone who exercises regularly. Instead of thinking, I should go to the gym, you need to start thinking, I'm the kind of person who takes care of their body. That's an identity, not just a behavior. Then, every time you exercise, you're not just working out, you're reinforcing that identity. You're proving to yourself, yes, I am the kind of person who takes care of their body. Each workout becomes evidence of who you are. And here's the beautiful part. Once that identity is established, it becomes harder to not work out, because not working out would contradict your identity. And humans are hardwired to be consistent with how we see ourselves. This works for anything. You don't just write sometimes. You're a writer. You don't just try to eat healthy. You're someone who respects their body. You don't just attempt to be productive. You're someone who honors their commitments. Now, I can hear some of you thinking, but isn't that fake? Aren't I just pretending to be something I'm not? No, you're not pretending. You're becoming. There's a difference. Pretending is when you claim an identity without supporting it with action. If you call yourself a writer but never write, that's pretending. But if you call yourself a writer and you write, even if it's just for 10 minutes a day, even if what you write isn't very good yet, you're not pretending. You're becoming. The person you're trying to become already exists within you. They're just waiting for you to take enough actions to prove their existence. Every disciplined choice you make brings that person closer to the surface until one day you realize that person isn't someone you're trying to become. That person is who you've been all along. Chapter 5, The Voice in Your Head. Let's talk about the voice in your head. You know the one. The voice that says, you can skip today, you've been good all week. The voice that says, you're too tired for this. The voice that says, what's the point? You're probably going to fail. Anyway, that voice is not your friend. That voice is not looking out for you. That voice is the guardian of your comfort zone, and its entire job is to keep you exactly where you are. I want you to understand something crucial. That voice is not you. It's a part of your brain's ancient wiring, designed to keep you safe and comfortable. In prehistoric times, this was useful. Conserving energy, avoiding unnecessary risks, sticking with what's familiar. These strategies kept humans alive. But in the modern world, that voice is not protecting you. It's imprisoning you. The voice wants you to stay in bed instead of going to the gym. The voice wants you to scroll social media instead of working on your project. The voice wants you to order takeout instead of cooking a healthy meal. And it has very convincing arguments. You're tired. You deserve a break. You'll start tomorrow. You've earned it. You're only human. All of these arguments sound reasonable in the moment, but they're lies. They're the smooth-talking con artist version of your brain, trying to sell you short-term comfort at the expense of long-term well-being. So how do you deal with this voice? First, you need to recognize it for what it is. When that voice pops up, trying to convince you to take the easy path, you need to catch it, label it, say to yourself, there's that voice again, trying to keep me comfortable. This simple act of recognition is powerful because it creates separation between you and the voice. You're not the voice. You're the observer of the voice. And once you see it clearly, it loses much of its power. Second, you need to develop a counter voice. A voice that speaks for your future self, for your goals, for the person you're becoming. When a comfort voice says, "You're too tired to work out," the counter voice says, "You're building discipline." This is exactly when it counts. At first, the counter voice will be weak. The comfort voice has been running the show for years. It's loud and convincing. But every time you act in accordance with the counter voice, you strengthen it. Every time you do the hard thing despite the comfort voice's protests, you're teaching your brain that the counter voice is in charge now. Over time, something remarkable happens. The counter voice becomes automatic. You don't have to consciously fight the comfort voice anymore. The disciplined response becomes your default. The voice that used to argue for comfort starts to quiet down because it learns that you're not listening anymore. But here's what you need to understand. That comfort voice will never completely go away. Even the most disciplined people still hear it. The difference is they don't negotiate with it. They don't debate it. They don't try to reason with it. They simply acknowledge it and do what they plan to do anyway. Think of it like this. You're the CEO of your life, and the comfort voice is a whiny employee who constantly suggests you take shortcuts, cut corners, and do the minimum. You don't fire this employee. You can't. They're part of the company. But you don't let them make decisions either. You thank them for their input, and then you do what the CEO knows needs to be done. Chapter 6, The Motivation Myth. We need to talk about motivation because it's one of the most misunderstood concepts in personal development. People treat motivation like it's fuel. They think, I need to get motivated so I can take action. And when they don't feel motivated, they wait. They wait for inspiration to strike. They wait for the perfect moment. They wait for the feeling that will make action easy. And while they're waiting, their lives pass them by. Here's the truth about motivation. It's not the cause of action. It's the result of action. You don't get motivated and then go to the gym. You go to the gym and then you feel motivated. You don't get inspired and then start writing. You start writing and then inspiration comes. You don't feel energized and then begin your project. You begin your project and then energy arrives. Motivation follows action. Always. Think about the last time you really didn't want to do something. Maybe it was cleaning your house, or going for a run, or tackling a difficult work project. Remember how hard it was to start? How every fiber of your being was resisting. But then remember what happened once you actually started. Usually, it wasn't as bad as you thought. Often, you actually got into it. Sometimes, you even didn't want to stop once you got momentum. That's because action creates motivation. Movement creates more movement. Newton's first law applies to more than just physics. Objects at rest stay at rest. Objects in motion stay in motion. So what does this mean practically? It means you need to stop waiting to feel like doing things. You're never going to Feel like going to the gym when you're comfortable on the couch. You're never going to feel like working on your goals when you could be scrolling through social media. You're never going to feel like having that difficult conversation when you could just avoid it. The feeling doesn't come first. The action comes first. Always. This is why disciplined people seem to have endless motivation, not because they feel more motivated, but because they take action regardless of how they feel, which then creates motivation, which makes the next action easier, which creates more motivation, which builds momentum, which makes everything feel easier. They've tapped into the motivation action flywheel. You start it with pure discipline, action without motivation. But once it's spinning, it becomes self-reinforcing. Action creates motivation, creates more action, creates more motivation. Meanwhile, undisciplined people are stuck in the opposite cycle. Inaction creates lack of motivation, creates more inaction, creates even less motivation. They're waiting for something external to break the cycle, not realizing that they're the only ones who can break it, and it requires action without motivation. Here's a practical strategy. Make the first step so small that motivation isn't required. Don't tell yourself you have to work out for an hour. Tell yourself you have to put on your workout clothes. That's it. Just get dressed. Then, once you're dressed, you can decide what to do next. Spoiler, once you're dressed, you'll probably work out. Don't tell yourself you have to write 1,000 words. Tell yourself you have to write one sentence. Just one. Then, once you've written one sentence, you can decide if you want to write another. The key is to make the barrier to entry so low that you can't reasonably make an excuse. And once you've cleared that tiny barrier, momentum takes over. The hardest part of running is putting on your shoes. The hardest part of writing is opening the document. The hardest part of cleaning is picking up the first item. Make the first step small enough that motivation isn't required, and let action create the motivation to continue. And here's one more critical insight about motivation. It's abundant after completion, not before. Before you do something hard, motivation is scarce. You have to drag yourself to start. But after you complete something hard, you feel amazing. You feel proud. You feel motivated to do it again tomorrow. This is why consistency is so powerful. Every time you follow through, you're not just accomplishing the task. You're creating motivation for tomorrow. You're making it easier for future you. So stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting to feel like doing things. Motivation is the reward for action, not the prerequisite. Part 3. Building your foundation. Chapter 7. The architecture of discipline. Now that we've covered the mindset, let's get tactical. Because understanding discipline intellectually is useless if you don't know how to build it practically. Discipline is not a personality trait that some people have and others don't. It's a skill, and like any skill, it can be developed through deliberate practice. But you need the right architecture, the right structure and systems to support it. Think of discipline like a house. You wouldn't build a house by just piling up materials randomly and hoping for the best. You'd create blueprints, lay a foundation, frame the structure, and build systematically. The same applies to discipline. The foundation of discipline is routine. And I don't mean some rigid, joyless schedule that accounts for every minute of your day. I mean a basic structure that handles your most important things automatically. Here's why routines are crucial. Every decision you have to make drains your mental energy. If you wake up every day and have to decide when to exercise, what to eat, when to work on your goals, what to do first, you're burning through your decision-making capacity before the day even starts. But if you have a routine, if these decisions are made in advance, you preserve that mental energy for the things that actually require decision-making. Let me give you a specific framework for building a routine that supports discipline. First, identify your non-negotiables. These are the things that absolutely must happen every day for you to maintain the life you want. Maybe it's exercise, maybe it's meditation, maybe it's working on a specific project, maybe it's quality time with family. Whatever they are, get clear on them. Write them down. These are your anchors. Second, assign these non-negotiables to specific times. Not sometime during the day, but specific times. This removes the decision fatigue of when to do them. Your brain doesn't have to wonder, should I work out now or later? It's been decided. You work out at 6 a.m. Done. Third, build your day around these anchors. Everything else fits in between them. This ensures that the most important things happen regardless of what else goes on in your day. Fourth, protect these times fiercely. This is where most people fail. They establish a routine, but then immediately allow it to be disrupted by anything that comes up. Someone wants to meet during your workout time. You reschedule your workout. You had a late night. You skip your morning routine. An opportunity comes up during your focused work time. You abandon your priorities. No, your routine is non-negotiable. It's not a suggestion. It's not a guideline. It's a commitment you've made to yourself. And honoring that commitment is more important than almost anything else that might come up. Now, does this mean you can never be flexible? Of course not. There will be exceptions, genuine emergencies, special circumstances, but they should be rare. If you're constantly making exceptions, you don't have a routine. You have suggestions you sometimes follow. Here's a powerful reframe. Your routine is not restricting you. It's protecting you. It's protecting your most important priorities from the chaos and randomness of life. It's ensuring that you make progress on what matters most, regardless of what the world throws at you. Chapter 8. The Morning Equation. Let's talk specifically about mornings, because how you start your day largely determines how the rest of it goes. There's a reason so many successful people are obsessed with morning routines. It's not because there's something magical about the morning itself. It's because the morning is the one time of day when you have the most control. Before the demands pile up, before other people need things from you, before unexpected challenges arise in the morning, your day is still yours. And what you do with that time sets the tone for everything that follows. If you wake up late, rushed, and reactive, checking your phone immediately, jumping into emails, responding to other people's urgency, you're starting the day from a position of weakness. You're letting the world set your agenda. You're reactive instead of proactive. But if you wake up with intention, if you take time to center yourself, if you accomplish something meaningful before the world makes its demands, you're starting from a position of strength. You've already won the first battle of the day. Everything else is easier. Here's what an effective morning routine should accomplish. First, it should prime your mind. This could be meditation, journaling, reading, something inspirational, or simply sitting with your thoughts. The point is to create mental clarity before diving into the chaos of the day. Second, it should take care of your body. Movement, hydration, nourishment. You're a physical being, and how your body feels affects everything else. Start the day by honoring that. Third, it should connect you to your bigger purpose. Remind yourself why you're doing all this. Review your goals. Visualize your future self. Connect your daily actions to your larger mission. Without this, it's easy to lose sight of why you're being disciplined in the first place. Fourth, it should include a win. Do something, even something small, that makes you feel accomplished. Make your bed. Complete a workout. Write for 15 minutes. Have a conversation with someone you love. Start the day with a sense of achievement, and that momentum carries forward. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. I'm not a morning person. This sounds terrible. Here's the thing. I'm not a morning person is usually just another story you tell yourself that keeps you stuck. Yes, some people naturally have different chronotypes. Some are naturally more alert earlier or later in the day. But most people who say they're not morning people simply have bad sleep habits. If you're staying up until midnight scrolling through your phone, of course you're not going to want to wake up early. If you're drinking caffeine late in the day, eating heavy meals before bed, keeping your bedroom too warm, you're sabotaging your sleep, and then claiming you're not a morning person. Try this. For 2 weeks, go to bed at a reasonable hour. Put your phone away an hour before sleep. Make your bedroom dark and cool. No caffeine after 2 p.m. Actually give yourself a chance to get quality sleep. I'm willing to bet that after 2 weeks of this, you'll find that mornings are much more manageable. You might even like them. But let's say you genuinely are someone who functions better later in the day. Fine. The principle still applies. You just shift the timing. The key is to have a routine, a time when you're proactive instead of reactive, a period where you control your experience before the world makes its demands. Whether that's morning, afternoon, or evening doesn't matter as much as the fact that it exists and you protect it. Chapter 9, The Evening Ritual. While mornings often get all the attention, evenings are equally important. How you end your day determines how you'll start tomorrow. Think about this. If you stay up late scrolling through social media, eating junk food, and letting your mind run wild with anxiety about tomorrow, what are the chances you're going to wake up feeling ready to crush it? 0. But if you wind down intentionally, prepare for tomorrow, and go to bed at a reasonable hour with a clear mind, you're setting yourself up for success. Here's what an effective evening routine should accomplish. First, it should create closure on today. Review what you accomplished. Acknowledge your wins, even small ones. Process anything that's bothering you, either by taking action on it or by deciding to let it go. Don't carry the day's stress into your sleep. Second, it should prepare for tomorrow. Lay out your clothes. Prep your meals. Review your calendar. Know what your first task will be. Eliminate as many decisions as possible so tomorrow morning you can execute on autopilot. Third, it should wind down your system. Your body and mind need signals that it's time to rest. Create a buffer between the demands of the day and sleep. No screens for at least an hour before bed. Maybe read, maybe journal, maybe have a meaningful conversation. Do something that calms rather than stimulates. Fourth, it should get you to bed at a consistent time. Sleep is not optional. It's not something you can shortcut without consequences. You need 7 to 9 hours. And if you're consistently getting less, you're undermining everything else you were trying to build. Discipline is hard enough with adequate sleep. Without it, it's nearly impossible. I want to address the myth that successful people sleep less. You've probably heard stories about CEOs who sleep 4 hours a night and work 20-hour days. First, many of those stories are exaggerated or outright false. Second, ones that are true usually don't mention the heart attacks, burnout, failed relationships, and health problems that follow. You cannot cheat biology. Sleep is when your body repairs itself, when your brain consolidates memories, when your hormones regulate, when your immune system strengthens. Sacrificing sleep is like trying to build a house on quicksand. It might work temporarily, but eventually everything collapses. Discipline includes the discipline to rest. to sleep, to recover. The hustle culture that glorifies sleep deprivation is selling you a lie that will cost you your health, your relationships, and ultimately your success. True discipline is sustainable, and sustainability requires rest. Part 4, The Dark Night. Chapter 10, When Everything Falls Apart. Let's talk about what happens when your discipline fails. Because it will. Not if, but when. You're going to have days where you don't follow your routine. You're going to have periods where you fall off track. You're going to mess up, slip up, and feel like you've lost all your progress. This happens to everyone, and how you handle these moments determines whether you actually build lasting discipline or whether you remain stuck in a cycle of starting and stopping forever. Most people treat a single failure as evidence that they can't be disciplined. They miss one workout and think, I guess I'm not the kind of person who exercises regularly. They break their diet once and think, I knew I couldn't do this. They sleep through their alarm and think, I'm not disciplined enough. This is catastrophic thinking, and it will sabotage you every single time. Here's what you need to understand. Missing once is not failure. Missing once is data. It's information. It's an opportunity to understand what went wrong and adjust. Failure is when you miss once and then give up entirely. The difference between people who build lasting discipline and people who don't isn't that the first group never falls off track. It's that they get back on track immediately. They don't spiral. They don't use one mistake as an excuse for complete abandonment. They treat each day as independent. Think about it this way. If you're driving to a destination and you take one wrong turn, do you give up and go back home? Of course not. You recalculate, correct course, and keep going. The same principle applies to discipline. You missed your morning workout. Don't write off the entire day. Work out at lunch, or in the evening, or do a quick 15-minute session before bed. Something is infinitely better than nothing, and maintaining the habit, even in a reduced form, is what keeps the discipline alive. You ate poorly at one meal. Don't use that as an excuse to eat poorly for the rest of the day. Make the next meal a good one. Every meal is an independent decision. You stayed up too late one night. Don't decide that your sleep schedule is ruined and stay up late again. Go to bed on time tonight. This might sound obvious, but here's where most people mess up. They let one deviation justify complete abandonment. They think, well, I already broke my streak, so I might as well go all out. This is your brain trying to avoid the discomfort of discipline by using one mistake as permission to stop trying. Don't fall for it. Instead, adopt what I call the never miss twice rule. Miss once, that's life. Miss twice, that's the beginning of a pattern. Never miss twice. This rule is powerful because it allows for the reality that you're human and life is unpredictable, while also preventing those single deviations from becoming habit. Regressions. You have permission to be imperfect, but you don't have permission to quit. Now, let's talk about the bigger failures. Not just missing a day, but falling off track for weeks or even months. Maybe you got sick. Maybe you had a family crisis. Maybe you went through a breakup or lost a job or dealt with a pandemic. Life happened and your discipline disappeared. First, forgive yourself. Beating yourself up accomplishes nothing except making you feel worse, which makes it harder to start again. You did what you had to do to survive a difficult situation. That's okay. Second, understand that you haven't lost as much progress as you think. Think of discipline like strength training. If you stop training for a while, you lose some strength, but you don't go back to zero. You have muscle memory. You can rebuild. much faster the second time than it took to build originally. The same is true with discipline. Even if you've fallen off track for months, the neural pathways you built are still there. The identity shifts you made don't completely disappear. You're not starting from scratch. You're restarting from a higher baseline than when you originally began. Third, start small. Don't try to jump back to where you were. If you were waking up at 5 a.m., meditating for an hour, working out for 2 hours, and working on your side project every day before you fell off track, don't try to resume all of that immediately. Pick one thing. Maybe just waking up at 5 a.m. That's it. Reestablish that one habit, and once it's solid, add the next one. Remember, you're not trying to prove something to anyone. You're building a sustainable practice. And sustainable means starting small and building progressively. Chapter 11, The Hidden Battles. There's a type of discipline that nobody talks about, and it's often the hardest kind. The discipline of managing your inner world. We talk a lot about the discipline of actions, waking up early, exercising, working on goals. But what about the discipline of managing your thoughts, your emotions, your reactions? This is where many people fail without even realizing they're failing. They're disciplined externally but chaotic internally. They go to the gym regularly, but their mind is a storm of negative self-talk. They work on their goals, but they're driven by fear and anxiety rather than purpose. They maintain their routines, but they're miserable. That's not true discipline. That's just white-knuckling through life. Real discipline includes emotional regulation. It includes not catastrophizing when something goes wrong. It includes not spiraling into anxiety about the future. It includes not ruminating on past mistakes. It includes not letting your mood dictate your entire day. This is incredibly difficult because, unlike external actions, managing your inner world is invisible. Nobody can see when you successfully interrupt a negative thought pattern. Nobody applauds when you choose not to spiral into anxiety. Nobody knows about the battle you're fighting against despair or fear or overwhelm. But this internal discipline is foundational, because if your inner world is chaos, eventually your outer discipline will crumble. You can't outrun your mind. So how do you develop this kind of discipline? First, you develop awareness. You can't manage what you don't notice. Start paying attention to your thought patterns. When do you spiral? What triggers you? What stories do you tell yourself repeatedly? Just noticing, without judgment, is the first step. I'm catastrophizing again. There's that familiar anxiety. I'm being harsh with myself right now. Second, you create space between stimulus and response. Something happens, and immediately you have a thought about it, and immediately you have an emotional reaction, and immediately you act on that reaction. This happens so fast. It feels like one thing, but it's actually a chain. Discipline is inserting space into that chain. Something happens. You notice your thought about it. You observe your emotional reaction, and then you choose your response. You're not suppressing anything. You're just not being controlled by it. This takes practice. A lot of practice. But over time, you develop the ability to experience strong emotions without being swept away by them. To have negative thoughts without believing them. To feel fear without letting it stop you. Third, you challenge your narratives. Your mind tells you stories constantly. I can't do this. People don't like me. I always fail. I'm not good enough. These stories feel true, but they're just thoughts. They're not facts. Start questioning them. Is that actually true? What's the evidence? What are the counterexamples? What would I tell a friend who said this about themselves? You don't have to believe everything your mind tells you. Your mind is a tool, not your master. Fourth, you cultivate compassion for yourself. The voice in your head can be brutally harsh. Many people talk to themselves in ways they would never dream of talking to anyone else. They're constantly berating themselves, calling themselves names, holding themselves to impossible standards. This is not discipline. This is cruelty. And cruelty, even self-directed, is not sustainable. True discipline includes treating yourself with the same kindness you'd extend to someone you care about. It includes understanding that you're human, that you're doing your best, that perfection isn't the goal, progress is. This doesn't mean you don't hold yourself accountable. It means you do so without character assassination. There's a difference between "I made a mistake" and "I'm a failure." One is feedback. The other is identity attack. Chapter 12, The Loneliness of Discipline. Here's something nobody warns you about when you start becoming disciplined. It can be lonely. When you start waking up early, your friends are asleep. When you skip happy hour to go to the gym, you miss out on social connection. When you spend your evenings working on your goals, you're not at the parties. When you're disciplined with your money, you can't participate in the spontaneous spending that your peers do. Discipline often means choosing differently than the people around you, and that can create distance. Some of your friendships might fade, not because anyone did anything wrong, but because your priorities have shifted. You're not available in the ways you used to be. You're not participating in the activities that used to bond you. This can hurt. Humans are social creatures. We're wired for connection and belonging, and choosing a path that separates you from your tribe goes against deep instincts. But here's what you need to understand. The loneliness is temporary. On the other side of this transformation, you'll find new connections. People who are also building, also growing, also disciplined. And these connections will be deeper and more fulfilling than the ones you lost, because they're based on mutual growth rather than shared mediocrity. The people who truly care about you will support your transformation, even if they don't understand it. They might miss you, but they'll be proud of you. They'll adjust and find new ways to connect. The people who resist your transformation, who mock you, who try to pull you back down, those people aren't your friends. They're scared that your change highlights their stagnation. They're threatened by your growth because it forces them to confront their own lack of it. Let them go. I know that sounds harsh, but you cannot allow people who are committed to staying where they are to sabotage your commitment to grow. And yes, there will be sacrifices. There will be things you miss out on. There will be moments where you watch everyone else having fun while you're putting in work, and you'll wonder if it's worth it. It is. I promise you it is. Because the truth is, those moments of fun they're having, they're temporary. They feel good in the moment, but they lead nowhere. Meanwhile, your discipline is compounding. Every day you're becoming more capable, more confident, more free. You're building something that lasts. And one day, maybe a year from now, maybe 5 years from now, you'll look back and realize that the loneliness was the price of admission to a much better life, and you'll be grateful you paid it. Part 5, The Transformation. Chapter 13, The Compound Effect. Let's talk about what happens when you stay disciplined long enough for the magic to kick in. Because there's magic, even though it doesn't look like magic. From the outside, discipline looks like boring consistency. The same routine, the same actions, day after day, week after week, month after month. It looks unremarkable, but something extraordinary happens beneath the surface. Something that most people quit before they ever experience, because they can't see it happening in Real time. It's called the compound effect, and it's the closest thing to a superpower you'll ever have. Here's how it works. Imagine you have two people. Both start out exactly the same, but one person improves by just 1% every day. Just one tiny percent. After one day, they're 1% better. Barely noticeable. After 1 month, they're 30% better. Starting to show, but nothing dramatic. But after 1 year, they're 37 times better. Not 365% better. 3,700% better. That's the power of compound growth. Now here's the thing. This works in both directions. If you get 1% worse every day, skipping workouts, eating poorly, procrastinating, staying up too late, after 1 year, you're at virtually zero. You've compounded yourself into mediocrity or worse. This is why discipline is so powerful and why lack of discipline is so destructive. The effects are barely noticeable day to day, but they're exponential over time. You go to the gym today. You look in the mirror. You look exactly the same as yesterday. It feels like it's not working, but you're not trying to look different today than yesterday. You're trying to look different today than you did 6 months ago. And if you've been going consistently, you will. You work on your project for an hour today. You don't finish it. It feels like you're not making progress, but you're not trying to finish it today. You're trying to finish it eventually. And if you work on it an hour every day, eventually you will. This is why most people fail. They're looking for immediate results. They want to see transformation after one workout, after 1 day of healthy eating, after 1 session of working on their goal. And when they don't see it, they quit. But disciplined people understand that they're playing a different game. They're not optimizing for today. They're optimizing for a year from now, 5 years from now, a lifetime from now. They trust the process even when they can't see the results yet. They know that if they just keep showing up, keep doing the work, keep honoring their commitments, the compound effect will work its magic. And here's what happens when you reach the point where the compound effect becomes visible. Suddenly, people start noticing. Wow, you look great. What have you been doing? How did you get so good at this? When did you become so disciplined? And the answer is, it's not sudden. It's been building the whole time. They just couldn't see it until now. This is the inflection point. The moment when all that invisible work becomes visible. When the compound effect crosses from subtle to obvious. When people start treating you differently because you've clearly transformed. And it feels amazing. Not because of the external validation, but because you've proven to yourself that you can change. That discipline works. That you are capable of becoming whoever you decide to become. But here's the trap. This is when many people stop. They hit a goal, they get some recognition, and they think, I've made it. I can relax now. And that's when they lose it all. Because discipline isn't a destination. It's not something you achieve and then stop doing. It's a practice. It's how you live. The people who maintain their transformations understand this. They don't stop being disciplined when they hit their goals. They set new goals. They keep showing up. They understand that discipline is not about reaching a finish line. It's about constant growth. Chapter 14, The Identity Shift. Remember earlier when we talked about identity? How you need to start seeing yourself as a disciplined person? Here's what happens when you stay disciplined long enough. The identity shift completes. You don't have to try to see yourself as disciplined anymore. You just are. It's not aspirational, it's descriptive. It's not something you're working on. It's who you are. This is a profound shift, and it changes everything. Before, discipline was something you did. Now, discipline is who you are. Before, You had to consciously choose the disciplined action. Now the disciplined action is your default, and you'd have to consciously choose to deviate. Before, discipline required effort and willpower. Now it's just how you operate. This is when discipline becomes effortless, not because the actions themselves are easy, but because doing them is aligned with your identity. You're not fighting yourself anymore. You're not overcoming resistance. You're just being yourself. And yourself happens to be disciplined. This is also when other changes start rippling through your life in unexpected ways. Maybe you started with a goal to get in shape, but now that you're disciplined about fitness, you notice you're also more disciplined at work. You're more focused. You procrastinate less. You follow through on commitments. Or maybe you started with a goal to build a business, but now that you're disciplined about your work, you notice your relationships improving. You're more present. You're better at communication. You keep your promises. Discipline in one area creates discipline in others. It's transferable. Once you prove to yourself that you can be disciplined, once it becomes part of your identity, it spreads. It becomes the lens through which you approach everything. And people notice. They start asking you for advice. They start treating you differently. They start seeing you as someone who has their life together. Someone reliable. Someone capable. But more importantly, you start seeing yourself that way. And that self-perception creates a positive feedback loop. You see yourself as disciplined, so you act disciplined, which reinforces that you're disciplined, which makes you more likely to continue being disciplined. This is the ultimate goal, making discipline so deeply integrated into your identity that it's not something you do, it's who you are. Chapter 15, The Freedom You've Been Seeking. Let's come full circle. Remember the discipline paradox from earlier? How constraints create freedom? You're about to experience that firsthand. When you become truly disciplined, when you have systems and routines and habits that support your goals, something unexpected happens. You become incredibly free. Free from the anxiety of unfinished goals. Free from the guilt of knowing you're not living up to your potential. Free from the stress of chaos and disorganization. Free from the shame of repeatedly failing yourself. All of that mental and emotional weight that you've been carrying around for years, gone, or at least dramatically lighter. Because when you're disciplined, you know you're doing what you need to do. You're honoring your commitments to yourself. You're making progress on what matters. And that creates a deep sense of peace that no amount of fleeting pleasure can match. You also become free in more practical ways. You're free financially because you've been disciplined with money. You have savings. You have options. You're not trapped by paycheck-to-paycheck living. You're free physically because you've been disciplined with health. You feel good in your body. You have energy. You're not limited by poor health or low stamina. You're free professionally because you've been disciplined with skills. You've built capabilities that make you valuable. You have leverage. You're not trapped in a job you hate because you have nowhere else to go. You're free relationally because you've been disciplined with communication. You've addressed issues instead of letting them fester. You've built strong, honest connections. You're not trapped in toxic relationships because you're afraid of being alone. This is the ultimate promise of discipline. It gives you control over your life. And when you have control, you have freedom. You get to choose what you want instead of being limited to what's available. You get to pursue opportunities instead of just surviving. You get to create instead of just consume. You get to design your life instead of just accepting what life gives you. And here's the beautiful irony. The people who resist discipline because they want freedom are the least free people in the world. They're slaves to their impulses, their circumstances, their limitations. Meanwhile, the people who embrace discipline, who accept the constraints, who do the work, who show up consistently, those are the people who are actually free. Part 6. Living Disciplined. Chapter 16. Sustainable Intensity. Now that you've built discipline, let's talk about how to maintain it for life. Because this is where many people stumble. They build amazing discipline, achieve incredible results, and then burn out. They push too hard for too long, and eventually they break. And here's what makes this particularly tragic. They often blame discipline itself for the burnout. They think, I tried being disciplined and it made me miserable, so discipline doesn't work for me. But that's like saying, I tried running and got injured, so running doesn't work for me. When the real issue was that you tried to run a marathon every single day without rest. The problem wasn't discipline. The problem was unsustainable intensity. Sustainable discipline is not about maximum intensity all the time. It's not about grinding yourself into dust. It's not about never resting or never enjoying yourself. It's not about being a machine that executes tasks without regard for your humanity. Sustainable discipline is about finding a pace you can maintain indefinitely. Think about it like running. If you sprint as hard as you can maintain that intensity for maybe 30 seconds before you collapse. Your body simply can't sustain that level of output. But if you find a sustainable pace, you can run for miles, for hours, indefinitely. The same applies to discipline. If you're constantly operating at maximum intensity, waking up at 4 a.m., working 18 hours a day, sacrificing everything for your goals, never taking breaks, never having fun, never resting, you might be able to maintain that for a few weeks, maybe a few months if you're particularly driven or particularly stubborn. But eventually, you will crash. And when you crash from that height, it's hard to get back up. I've seen this pattern countless times. Someone discovers discipline, gets excited about it, goes all in with maximum intensity, achieves some early results, pushes even harder, and then hits a wall. They wake up one day and can't do it anymore. They're exhausted, they're resentful, they're burned out, and they abandon all discipline, swinging to the opposite extreme of complete lack of structure. This yo-yo pattern, from zero discipline to extreme discipline to burnout to zero discipline, is one of the most common failure modes. And it's completely avoidable if you understand one crucial principle. Sustainable beats intense. Instead, find a level of discipline that's challenging but sustainable. That pushes you but doesn't break you. That improves your life instead of consuming it. That makes your life better, not just more productive. This means building in rest, taking days off, having periods of lower intensity, enjoying life, spending time with people you love, pursuing activities that bring you joy even if they don't contribute to your goals, reading a book just because it's interesting, taking a walk with no purpose except to enjoy the walk, having a conversation with no agenda except connection. Discipline is not about eliminating everything enjoyable from your life. It's about ensuring that the enjoyable things don't derail your important things. It's about balance, not extremes. Think about it this way. If your discipline makes you miserable, you're doing it wrong. If your routine feels like prison, you're doing it wrong. If you're constantly white-knuckling through your days, gritting your teeth, forcing yourself to continue, you're doing it wrong. Yes, discipline involves doing things you don't feel like doing. Yes, it requires discomfort. Yes, it means choosing delayed gratification over immediate pleasure. But it should make your overall life better, not worse. It should increase your well-being, not decrease it. And yes, there will be seasons of intensity. Times when you need to push hard. Maybe you're launching a business, or training for a competition, or working on a time-sensitive project, or dealing with a crisis that requires all your focus and energy. During these seasons, it's okay to dial up the intensity, to sacrifice more, to be more extreme with your discipline, to temporarily put other things on hold while you handle what needs handling. But these should be seasons, not permanent states. Finite periods of intensity followed by periods of recovery and maintenance. You need to know going in that this is temporary, that you're sprinting, not running a marathon, that there's an end point after which you'll dial back down. Think of your discipline like training. Athletes have periods of intense training, followed by periods of tapering and recovery. They don't stay at maximum intensity year-round, because that would lead to injury and burnout. They periodize their training, hard seasons, recovery seasons, maintenance seasons. During peak training season, an athlete might work out twice a day, follow a strict diet, get extra sleep, and focus almost exclusively on their sport. But they don't maintain that year-round. They have off-seasons where they maintain fitness, but also rest, recover, and live a more balanced life. They have maintenance periods where they stay in shape without pushing for new personal records. Your discipline should work the same way. Hard seasons when you're building something important. Recovery seasons when you maintain your habits, but give yourself space to rest and integrate what you've built. Maintenance seasons when you're enjoying the fruits of your labor while staying disciplined enough not to lose progress. Maybe your hard season is January through March when you're launching a new project. During this time, you wake up early, work long hours, stay laser-focused. But then April through June is your maintenance season. You keep your core habits, still exercising, still eating well, still working productively. But you're not pushing for massive growth. You're consolidating. You're enjoying. You're living. Or maybe your hard season is preparing for a competition or a major life event. You dial up intensity across the board, and then afterwards, you dial back down, not to zero, but to sustainable. This approach is sustainable because it acknowledges that you are human. You have limits. You need rest. You need joy. You need balance. You need variety. You need spontaneity sometimes. And trying to ignore those needs doesn't make you more disciplined. It makes you fragile. It makes you brittle. It makes you one bad day away from breaking. The people who maintain discipline for decades, not just months, are the ones who've learned this lesson. They're not the ones who push hardest. They're the ones who push smart. They're the ones who know when to sprint and when to jog. They're the ones who've made peace with their humanity instead of trying to transcend it. So here's what I want you to think about. What's your sustainable pace? Not your maximum pace. Not what you can do for a week when you're fired up. What can you do consistently, indefinitely, without burning out? Maybe it's working out 4 days a week instead of 7. Maybe it's 1 rest day per week where you don't work on your side project. Maybe it's having weekends that are less structured. Maybe it's taking 1 week off every quarter to completely disconnect and recharge. Whatever it is, build it into your system from the beginning. Don't wait until you're burned out to introduce rest. Design sustainability into your discipline from day one. Because here's the truth, you're playing a long game. What you can sustain for 10 years is infinitely more valuable than what you can sustain for 10 weeks. The tortoise really does beat the hare, not through intensity, but through consistency and sustainability. Chapter 17. The Discipline of Saying No. Here's a form of discipline that becomes increasingly important as you become more successful. The discipline of saying no. And this might be the hardest form of discipline to master, because it goes against everything we're taught about being helpful, being nice, being a team player, being open to opportunities. When you're disciplined and achieve visible results, opportunities start coming to you. People want your time. They want your advice. They want you to join their projects, attend their events, support their causes, make introductions, provide feedback, collaborate on ideas. And all of these opportunities sound good. Many of them are good. Some of them might even be great. But saying yes to everything is the fastest way to lose your discipline. Because every yes is also a no to something else. When you say yes to this meeting, you're saying no to time with your family. When you say yes to this project, you're saying no to working on your own priorities. When you say yes to this opportunity, you're saying no to rest. When you say yes to helping this person, you're saying no to helping yourself. This is the opportunity cost that most people don't calculate. They only see what they're gaining by saying yes. They don't see what they're losing. Disciplined people are protective of their time and energy. They understand that their capacity is finite and that every commitment has a cost. So they're selective. They're thoughtful. They're strategic. They say no to most things so they can say yes to the right things. This is hard because we're socially conditioned to say yes. We're taught that good people are helpful people, that successful people say yes to opportunities, that you never know where your next big break will come from. So you should be open to everything. Saying no feels rude. It feels like we're letting people down. It feels like we're being selfish. It feels like we're missing out. It feels like we're closing doors. It feels like we're burning bridges. But here's the truth. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't serve your priorities, you're saying no to yourself. You're breaking a commitment to yourself in order to keep a commitment to someone else. And if you do this repeatedly, you'll wake up one day and realize you've built a life that serves everyone but you. You'll look at your calendar and not recognize it. You'll wonder how you ended up with all these commitments that don't align with your goals. You'll feel resentful and exhausted and spread thin. And ironically, because you're spread so thin, you won't be able to do excellent work on any of the things you committed to. You'll be mediocre at everything instead of excellent at a few things. So develop the discipline to say no. Not rudely, not without explanation, but firmly and clearly. Thank you for thinking of me, but I can't take that on right now. I appreciate the invitation, but that doesn't align with my current priorities. That sounds interesting, but I need to protect my time from my existing commitments. I'm honored you'd ask, but my plate is full and I want to do justice to what I've already committed to. I'm going to pass on this one, but I appreciate you reaching out. You don't owe everyone an elaborate explanation. You don't need to justify your choices. You don't need to apologize for having boundaries. Your time and energy are yours to allocate as you see fit. You're not being selfish by protecting them. You're being responsible. And here's what you'll find. When you start saying no to things that don't serve you, you create space for things that do. You have time to work on what actually matters. You have energy for the people and projects you truly care about. You have bandwidth to be excellent at the things you commit to, instead of being mediocre at everything because you're spread too thin. The people who respect you will understand. They might be disappointed, but they'll respect your boundaries. And the people who don't respect your boundaries, those aren't your people anyway. This is another form of discipline creating freedom. The discipline to say no creates freedom to say yes to what really matters. But let me give you some nuance here, because I don't want you to become someone who says no to everything and isolates themselves. The key is discernment. Ask yourself, does this opportunity align with my goals? Will this relationship add value to my life? Does this commitment excite me or obligate me? Am I saying yes because I genuinely want to, or because I feel like I should? If the answer is genuine enthusiasm and alignment with your priorities, say yes. If the answer is obligation, guilt, fear of missing out, or inability to disappoint someone, say no. And here's a helpful framework. Before saying yes to anything, sleep on it. Give yourself 24 hours. If you're still excited about it tomorrow, it might be worth doing. But if you wake up and your first thought is, ugh, why did I agree to that? You have your answer. You can also create categories of automatic no's and automatic yes. For example, automatic no to any meeting that doesn't have a clear agenda. Automatic no to any request that comes with less than a week's notice. Automatic yes to spending time with your closest friends. Automatic yes to opportunities that directly advance your primary goal. Having these pre-decided rules removes the decision fatigue and makes saying no easier. Remember, saying no is not about being unhelpful or antisocial. It's about being strategic with your finite resources so you can actually make a meaningful impact where you choose to engage, rather than making a negligible impact everywhere because you're spread too thin. Chapter 18, Teaching Discipline. At some point in your discipline journey, people will start asking you how you do it. They'll notice the changes in you. They'll see your results. They'll want your secrets. They'll want you to teach them. They'll want you to somehow transfer what you've built to them. And you'll quickly discover that discipline is one of the hardest things to teach because it can't be given. It has to be developed. You can't download discipline into someone's brain. You can't do their push-ups for them. You can't make their hard decisions for them. You can share your strategies. You can explain your systems. You can describe your mindset. You can tell them what worked for you. But ultimately, each person has to do the work themselves. You can show them the path, but you can't walk it for them. You can open the door, but they have to step through it. This is humbling. You want to help. You want to save people from the years of struggle you went through. You want to spare them the failures, the setbacks, the pain. You want to give them a shortcut, but you can't. Everyone has to figure it out for themselves. Everyone has to go through their own process. What you can do is model it, live it. Let your life be the evidence that discipline works. And when people are ready, truly ready, not just curious or temporarily motivated, they'll seek you out and actually apply what you share. But don't make the mistake of trying to force your discipline on others. Don't become preachy or judgmental. Don't look down on people who aren't where you are. Don't become one of those insufferable people who can't stop talking about their morning routine or their diet or their productivity system. Remember, you weren't always disciplined either. You struggled. You failed. You hit snooze. You ate poorly. You procrastinated. You made excuses. You had to learn these lessons the hard way. So extend the same grace to others that you needed when you were learning. Meet people where they are. Share when asked. Support when appropriate. But don't make someone else's discipline your responsibility. Don't take it personally when they don't follow your advice. Don't get frustrated when they make the same mistakes you told them to avoid. They have to learn their own way, in their own time. This is especially important in close relationships. You might see someone you love struggling with a lack of discipline, and you desperately want to help. Maybe it's your partner who keeps talking about getting in shape, but never does. Maybe it's your friend who complains about their career, but won't take action to change it. Maybe it's a family member whose life is falling apart because they can't get their act together. You want to shake them. You want to tell them exactly what to do. You want to force them to change because you can see so clearly what they need to do. But unless they want to change, unless they're asking for your help, unless they're actually ready to do the work, trying to impose your discipline on them will only create conflict and resentment. They'll feel judged. They'll feel pressured. They'll resist you. And paradoxically, your pushing might make them less likely to change, because now change means admitting you were right. The most powerful thing you can do is focus on your own discipline and let that be the example. Sometimes seeing what's possible is the catalyst someone needs to start their own journey. Your transformation might inspire them more than any words could, but sometimes they're not ready. And that's okay. It's not your job to fix everyone. It's not your responsibility to make everyone see what you see. Focus on being an example, not an evangelist. And when people do ask for help, be generous with your knowledge, but realistic about what you can offer. Don't pretend you have all the answers. Share what worked for you while acknowledging that their path might look different. Give them principles, not just tactics. Teach them how to think about discipline, not just what to do. And be honest about the difficulty. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't make it sound easy. Don't give them false hope that there's some secret trick that makes it effortless. Tell them the truth. It's hard, but it's worth it. It takes time, but it compounds. It requires consistency, but it creates freedom. The people who are truly ready will appreciate your honesty and will do the work anyway. The people who aren't ready will be scared off by the truth, and that's actually a good thing. You're saving both of you from wasted time and eventual disappointment. Chapter 19, When Discipline Becomes Joy. Here's something that sounds almost unbelievable until you experience it. At some point, discipline stops feeling like discipline. It starts feeling like joy. The workout you used to dread becomes something you look forward to. The healthy meal you used to see as sacrifice becomes something you genuinely prefer. The work on your goals that used to feel like a grind becomes something that energizes you. The early morning that used to be torture becomes your favorite part of the day. This transformation happens gradually. You don't notice it day to day. It's not like you wake up one morning and suddenly everything is different. But one day you'll realize, wait, I actually enjoy this now. This isn't hard anymore. This is just who I am. And that realization is profound because it means you've completed the journey. You've gone from forcing yourself to do something, to choosing to do it, to it being part of your identity, to actually enjoying it. That's the full transformation. This is when discipline transcends itself, when it stops being something you do and becomes something you are, when the process becomes as rewarding as the results, when you're not grinding towards some future payoff. You're enjoying the present moment while also building toward the future. This doesn't mean everything becomes easy. There will still be hard days. There will still be workouts that kick your ass. There will still be projects that challenge you. There will still be mornings when your bed feels more appealing than your alarm. There will still be moments of doubt, of frustration, of wanting to quit. But your relationship to these challenges changes fundamentally. Instead of dreading them, you welcome them. You see a difficult workout on your schedule and you think, good, this will make me stronger. Instead of, ugh, I have to do this. You face a challenge in your work and you think this is an opportunity to grow. Instead of, why is this so hard? Instead of seeing challenges as obstacles, you see them as opportunities. You understand that discomfort is where growth happens. That resistance is what builds strength. That difficulty is the price of improvement. And you're willing to pay that price because you've seen the return on investment. Instead of wishing they would go away, you appreciate them for making you stronger. You're grateful for the hard days because you know they're making the good days possible. You're thankful for the challenges because you know they're creating capabilities you didn't have before. This is the ultimate transformation, when discipline becomes not just sustainable, but joyful. When you're not forcing yourself to do hard things, you're choosing them because you've learned that hard things are where growth lives. When you actively seek out the difficult path because you know it leads somewhere worth going. And this joy, it's not the shallow, fleeting pleasure of avoiding discomfort. It's not the temporary high of eating junk food or sleeping in or binging entertainment. That kind of pleasure feels good in the moment, but leaves you empty afterwards. It's cotton candy, sweet but insubstantial. No, the joy of discipline is something different entirely. It's the deep, lasting satisfaction of knowing you're becoming more than you were, of knowing you're honoring your potential, of knowing you're building something meaningful with your life. It's the quiet pride of doing what you said you'd do. It's the confidence that comes from keeping promises to yourself. It's the peace that comes from living in alignment with your values. This joy is foundational. It's structural. It's not dependent on external circumstances or other people's approval or whether you're having a good day. It's there because you're living with integrity, because who you are matches who you want to be, because you're not at war with yourself anymore. This is what the disciplined life ultimately offers. Not just achievement, not just success, but profound fulfillment. The knowledge that you're living with integrity, that who you are matches who you want to be, that you're not compromising on what matters, that you're building a life you're proud of, day by day, choice by choice. And when you reach this point, something beautiful happens. Discipline stops being this thing you have to work at constantly. It becomes your default. It becomes automatic. Not because you're forcing it, but because you genuinely want it. Because you've experienced the alternative, and you know which life feels better. You've tasted both sides. You've lived with discipline and without it. And you've realized that the disciplined life, contrary to what you feared, is actually the more enjoyable life. It's the life with less stress, less anxiety, less regret. It's the life with more freedom, more capability, more satisfaction. And once you've experienced that, you can never go back. Not because you can't, but because you don't want to. You found something better, and you're never going to choose the worse option again. This is the promised land of discipline. This is what you're building toward. And I promise you, it's worth every hard morning, every difficult choice, every moment of discomfort along the way. The joy is real, and it's waiting for you on the other side of consistent, disciplined action, closing the rest of your life. So here we are. You've learned what discipline really is. You've learned why it matters. You've learned how to build it. You've learned how to maintain it. Now comes the only question that actually matters. What are you going to do? Because everything we've talked about is useless if it stays theoretical. If it stays in your head as interesting ideas, but doesn't translate into different actions, then we've both wasted our time. So let me ask you directly, are you going to continue living as you've been living, getting the results you've been getting? Or are you going to change? Are you going to wake up tomorrow and hit snooze, scroll through your phone, eat whatever's convenient, drift through your day responding to whatever demands attention, and go to bed having made no progress on what actually matters to you? Or are you going to wake up tomorrow and do something different? Because I'll tell you what, 1 year from now, you will absolutely be somewhere different than you are today. The only question is where. Will you be further along the path toward the life you want? Or will you be further away from it? Will you be proud of how you spent this year? Or will you regret it? Let me paint you two pictures. Two versions of your future, 1 year from now. In the first version, nothing changes. You finish this audiobook. You feel inspired for maybe a day or two, maybe even a week. You might even start something. But then life happens. An excuse presents itself. You miss one day, then another, and before you know it, you're right back where you started. A year passes. You're in the same job you don't really like. You're in the same body that doesn't feel good. You're in the same financial situation that stresses you out. You're still waiting for the right time to start. Still making the same promises to yourself that you'll break. Still dreaming about the person you could be instead of becoming them. And the worst part, you'll be 1 year older. 1 year further from your goals. 1 year deeper into the patterns that are keeping you stuck. Now the second version. You finish this audiobook, and you actually do something with what you've learned. You pick one thing, just one, and you commit to it. You start small. You struggle at first. Some days are hard. Some days you don't want to do it, but you show up anyway. Days turn into weeks. Weeks turn into months. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, things start to change. You start to change. Your body feels different. Your mind feels clearer. Your confidence grows. People start noticing something's different about you. Opportunities start appearing. 6 months in, you've built momentum that feels unstoppable. A year from now, you look back and barely recognize the person you were. You've achieved things you weren't sure were possible. But more than that, you've become someone you're proud of. Someone who follows through. Someone who's disciplined. Both of these futures are equally possible. Both are equally available to you. The only difference between them is the decision you make right now and the actions you take tomorrow. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is filled with decisions. Daily decisions. Moment-to-moment decisions. And those decisions are either moving you closer or further away. There's no standing still. Even choosing not to decide is a decision. It's a decision to stay where you are, which means you're actually moving backward while everyone else moves forward. So what's it going to be? I want you to think about something for a moment. Think about the person you were 5 years ago. Think about the choices they made, the habits they had, the discipline they lacked. Now realize this. The life you're living right now is the direct result of those choices. Every decision they made, or didn't make, led to this exact moment. They created your present. Now here's the profound realization. 5 years from now, you're going to look back at today the same way. The choices you make now, the habits you build now, the discipline you develop now, that's what will create your future. Future you is counting on present you to make better choices than past you made. Don't let them down. Here's what I want you to do. Right now. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not when you feel motivated right now. While you're still in this moment. While you still have this clarity. While you still remember why you started listening to this audiobook in the first place. Take out your phone. Open your notes app. Or grab a piece of paper if you're old school. I want you to write something down because there's power in writing. It makes it real. It makes it a commitment instead of just a thought. Pick one thing, one single behavior that, if you did it consistently, would meaningfully improve your life. Not 5 things. Not, I'm going to transform my entire life starting tomorrow. Just one thing. Because here's what happens when people try to change everything at once. They change nothing. They get overwhelmed. They burn out. They quit. But one thing is manageable. One thing is sustainable. One thing is how every major transformation begins. So what's your one thing? Maybe it's going to the gym 3 times a week. Maybe it's working on your project for an hour every day. Maybe it's going to bed at a reasonable time. Maybe it's having a real conversation with someone you love every day. Maybe it's reading for 30 minutes. Maybe it's meal prepping on Sundays. Maybe it's meditating for 5 minutes each morning. Maybe it's writing in a journal before bed. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that it's something that moves you toward the person you want to become. Something that your future self will thank you for. Something that compounds. Write it down. Be specific. Not exercise more, but go to the gym Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 a.m. Not eat healthier, but prepare my lunches for the week every Sunday afternoon. Not work on my goals, but spend 1 hour between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. every weeknight on my business. Specificity removes ambiguity. Ambiguity is where discipline goes to die. Now here's the critical part. Decide when you're going to do it. Not sometime, but a specific time. This removes the decision-making burden and creates a trigger for the habit. Your brain loves triggers. When X happens, I do Y. When my alarm goes off at 6 a.m., I put on my workout clothes. When I finish dinner, I go for a walk. When I sit down at my desk in the morning, I work on my project before checking email. The when is as important as the what, maybe even more important, because if you don't decide when, you'll constantly be deciding whether. And every time you have to decide whether, you're burning willpower and creating an opportunity to choose comfort over growth. Write down the when. Be specific about it. Set an alarm if you need to. Put it in your calendar. Create a reminder. Make it impossible to forget. Now, identify the smallest possible version of this behavior. This is crucial, so pay attention. Don't commit to an hour-long workout. Commit to putting on your workout clothes. Don't commit to writing 1,000 words. Commit to writing 1 sentence. Don't commit to meditating for 30 minutes. Commit to sitting down and taking 3 deep breaths. Make it so small that you can't reasonably say no. Why? Because the hardest part of any discipline is starting. Once you've put on your workout clothes, you'll probably work out. Once you've written 1 sentence, you'll probably write more. Once you've taken 3 breaths, you'll probably continue meditating. But even if you don't, even if you just put on your workout clothes and then take them off, even if you just write 1 sentence and stop, you've still honored your commitment. You've still proven to yourself that you do what you say you'll do. You've still reinforced the identity of someone who's disciplined. And that's what this is really about. Not the specific behavior, the identity shift. Every time you do what you said you'd do, you're voting for the identity of a disciplined person. Do it enough times, and you become that person. Write down the smallest version. Make it laughably easy. Make it so small that you'd be embarrassed to tell someone that's your goal. That's how you know it's small enough. Now comes the most important part. Do it tomorrow. Just once. You're not committing to forever right now. You're committing to tomorrow. Just show up once. Don't worry about next week. Don't worry about whether you can sustain this for a year. Don't worry about what happens if you fail. Just focus on tomorrow. Can you do this one small thing tomorrow? Of course you can. Anyone can do anything for 1 day, and then do it the next day, and the day after that. Don't think about next week or next month. Just focus on today. Did you do the thing today? If yes, success. Celebrate that. Feel proud. You did what you said you'd do. If no, do it tomorrow. Never miss twice. That's the rule. Never miss twice. This is the safety net that keeps one mistake from becoming a relapse. Miss once. That's life. Things happen. You're human. But miss twice. That's the beginning of a pattern. That's when the identity starts to slip. That's when you go from, I'm someone who works out but had to skip yesterday, to, I'm someone who used to work out. Never miss twice. Write that down too. Make it your mantra. That's it. That's how you start. Not with a dramatic overhaul. Not with some perfect master plan. With one small action, repeated daily, until it becomes part of who you are. And here's what will happen. That one discipline will create confidence. You'll prove to yourself that you can do what you say you'll do. That confidence will make the next discipline easier. That second discipline will create more confidence. And slowly, steadily, you'll build a foundation of discipline that transforms your entire life. But it starts with one decision, one action, one day. The rest of your life is waiting on the other side of that decision. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking about all the times you've tried before. All the New Year's resolutions that lasted 3 weeks. All the gym memberships you bought and never used. All the projects you started and never finished. You're thinking, I've heard all this before. I've tried all this before. What makes this time different? And that's a fair question. So let me answer it. What makes this time different is that this time, you understand something you didn't understand before. This time, you know that discipline is not about motivation. It's not about having an incredible willpower. It's not about being a different person than you are. This time, you know that discipline is about systems, about starting small, about identity shifts, about never missing twice, about making the disciplined choice the easy choice through environmental design and routine. This time, you're not relying on bursts of motivation that fade. You're building sustainable habits that compound. This time, you're not trying to change everything at once. You're changing one thing and letting that create momentum for the next thing. This time is different because you are different. You have knowledge you didn't have before. You have a framework you didn't have before. You have an understanding of why you failed before and how to succeed now. But knowledge isn't enough. Understanding isn't enough. You have to act. You have to take what you've learned and translate it into different choices, different behaviors, different results. So I'll ask you one final time. What are you going to do? Not what do you hope will happen. Not what you wish was different. Not what you'll do someday. What are you actually, concretely, specifically going to do? Because here's the truth that nobody wants to hear, but everyone needs to understand. You are exactly where your level of discipline has taken you. If you don't like where you are, the answer isn't more opportunities, more resources, or more luck. The answer is more discipline. Think about that. Really think about it. Every area of your life where you're dissatisfied, your health, your career, your relationships, your finances, your personal growth, can be traced back to a lack of discipline in that area. You're not happy with your body? That's a discipline issue. You know what to eat and how to exercise. You just haven't been disciplined about doing it consistently. You're not happy with your career? That's a discipline issue. You know what skills you need to develop or what projects you need to complete. You just haven't been disciplined about working on them. You're not happy with your finances? That's a discipline issue. You know you should spend less and save more. You just haven't been disciplined about it. I'm not saying this to make you feel bad. I'm saying this to empower you. Because if your problems are discipline problems, that means they're solvable. You don't need to win the lottery. You don't need someone to give you permission. You don't need perfect circumstances. You just need to become more disciplined. And you can do that. Starting tomorrow. Starting with one thing. Everything you want, the body, the career, the relationships, the financial freedom, the sense of purpose, is available to you. It's not easy, but it's simple. It's on the other side of consistent, disciplined action. The question is, are you willing to pay the price? Not the price of suffering. Let me be clear about this. Discipline is not about making yourself miserable. It's not about punishment. It's not about deprivation. The price I'm talking about is the price of showing up, of doing what needs to be done, day after day, whether you feel like it or not. The price of choosing your future self over your present self. The price of delayed gratification. The price of consistency over intensity. The price of discipline. And yes, that price can feel high in the moment. When your alarm goes off and your bed is warm, showing up feels expensive. When you're tired and stressed and all you want is to zone out, working on your goals feels expensive. When everyone else is out having fun and you're staying in to stick to your commitments, discipline feels expensive. But here's what they don't tell you. The price of discipline is always less than the price of regret. The discomfort of discipline is temporary, and it leads somewhere. The discomfort of regret is permanent, and it leads nowhere. Discipline might be hard, but it makes your life easier. Lack of discipline might be easy, but it makes your life harder. You get to choose which hard you want. The hard of discipline or the hard of regret. The hard of growth or the hard of stagnation. The hard of showing up or the hard of living with the knowledge that you didn't. Choose discipline. I promise you it's worth it. If you truly are willing to pay that price, then your life is about to change in ways you can't even imagine right now. Not overnight, not dramatically, but steadily, surely, inevitably. Let me tell you what's going to happen over the next year if you actually commit to this. The first week is going to feel good. You're going to be excited. You're going to have that new beginning energy. You're going to feel proud of yourself for starting. Enjoy this phase, but don't get too attached to it. It won't last. The second and third weeks are going to be harder. The novelty will wear off. You're going to wake up one day and not want to do the thing. You're going to question why you're doing this. You're going to be tempted to quit. This is the phase where most people fail. Don't be most people. Show up anyway. This is where discipline is built, in the moments when you don't feel like it. Around week 4 to week 6, something shifts. It starts to feel a little easier. Not easy, but easier. You're building momentum. You're starting to see early results. You're starting to believe that you can actually do this. This is a dangerous phase because you might think you've made it and can relax. Don't. Keep showing up. Around month 3, you'll hit your first real plateau. Results will slow down. Progress will feel invisible. You'll wonder if it's even working. This is where people often quit, thinking it's not working anymore. But it is working. The compound effect is accumulating beneath the surface. Trust the process. Keep showing up. Around month 6, you'll have your first major breakthrough. You'll look back at where you started and barely recognize that person. You'll realize you've built something real, something sustainable. Other people will start noticing and commenting. You'll feel proud. This is when discipline stops feeling like discipline and starts feeling like identity. You're not someone trying to be disciplined anymore. You're just disciplined. By month 12, you'll have completely transformed. Not just in the specific area you focused on, but in multiple areas of your life. Because discipline spreads. The confidence from one area bleeds into others. You will have accomplished things you weren't sure were possible. You will have become someone you didn't know you could be. And 1 year from now, you'll look back at this moment as the turning point, as the day you stopped making excuses and started making progress, as the day you stopped waiting for the perfect moment and started creating it, as the day you became disciplined. But only if you start. Only if you take that first step. Only if you make that first choice. So let me give you one final push. One final reason to start right now instead of someday. You know what the most valuable thing in the world is? It's not money. It's not connections. It's not talent. It's time. And every day you wait is a day you'll never get back. Every day you postpone is a day your future self will wish you had started. You can't get time back. You can't rewind. You can't go back to 5 years ago and make better choices. But you can start making them now. Right now. Today. And 5 years from now. You'll be so grateful you did. You'll look back at this moment with pride instead of regret. You'll think, thank God I started when I did. Thank God I didn't wait another year. Or you won't start. You'll close this audiobook and go back to your life exactly as it was. And 5 years from now, you'll listen to something like this again, and you'll feel that same pang of, I should do something about this. And you'll tell yourself, this time will be different. But it won't be, because you still won't have taken action. Which version do you want to be? The one who started or the one who kept waiting? I already know the answer. You know the answer too. Deep down, beneath all the fear and doubt and excuses, you know what you need to do. So do it. Take out your phone right now. Write down your one thing. Write down when you'll do it. Write down the smallest version. Set a reminder for tomorrow. That's your homework. That's your assignment. That's your first test of discipline. Doing this one simple thing right now instead of putting it off. And tomorrow, when that reminder goes off, show up. Do the thing. Just once. Prove to yourself that you can. And then do it again the next day. And the next. Never miss twice. That's all you have to do. Show up. Be consistent. Trust the process. The person you're meant to become is waiting on the other side of that decision. Don't make them wait any longer. So go. Close this audiobook. Take action. Build your discipline. Transform your life. The future you is waiting. And they're begging you to start today. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not when you feel ready. Today. Right now. What's your one thing? Write it down. Commit to it. Do it tomorrow. Your life begins the moment you decide to change it. So decide. Now.